The money supply that we're using to pay for goods and services on a daily basis is issued by private banks, or you could say publicly traded corporations, where the decisions are made by the banks as well as the central bank. There's been a revolution in payments.
Democracy, poverty reduction, and cryptocurrency.
Communities get their own currency.
Decentralized social networks.
Banking system inflate the money supply in the face of falling production. That's monetary inflation, which eventually causes price inflation.
So let me ask about this, because I think we're touching upon very interesting things that almost rely on these premises that there is a government, and the government has the sole responsibility of issuing the money. And even if we go further back,
well, the government doesn't issue the money. Actually, it's the banks that issue the money with government sanction and participation.
So right now, 95% of our money supply in dollars is issued as bank loans, essentially, right? Or bank credit. Yeah. And the banks originate this credit. Now we're going to get into the meat of what, your views are of what we can do. But I just want to make it clear. The money supply that we're using to pay for goods and services on a daily basis is issued by private banks, or you could say publicly traded corporations, where the decisions are made by the banks as well as the central bank, essentially it's almost a governmental agency. The Federal Reserve System is a quasi-governmental agency, where the Federal Reserve System...
It's a private company, actually.
It's a private company, but it does have two mandates, right? To keep inflation low and to keep employment high. It does have mandates, at least in its charter.
They tell us it's actually, their role is actually to balance the two, to balance unemployment against inflation. It's basically when the money supply is inflated, it's taking value out of the economy, value that would ordinarily go to you and me and the rest of the consumers. So it's taking that value out of the economy. And so the government colludes with the banking system. Mm-hmm. The banks get to earn interest on all of this money that they create, and the government gets to spend way beyond its tax revenues and use it however it likes.
So that extracts
to
money
bomb this country, that country, and wage wars.
In a way, that system of elites deciding how to distribute this newly created credit money is extractive, let's say, of the labor that is done in any system by businesses or nonprofit organizations or others. When they take on a loan, first of all, the bank underwriters decide winners and losers, who gets the loan. And typically, if you get the loan, you're better off than if you didn't, especially if the interest rates are low, because then you have more capital to deploy, let's say, into bubbles like Bitcoin, or not necessarily bubbles in the pejorative sense, but just, there's a lot of money being printed. So on the one hand, you're getting loans that you can deploy, whereas others cannot, because you have cheap money because the bank underwriter said that you can have it. You've done that sale. On the other hand, you have the Federal Reserve System that's essentially selling treasuries in order they're doing open market operations in order
they're buying treasuries.
They're buying treasuries and then selling them on the two others. But yeah, so the point is they're a market maker for US treasuries, if you will, right?
That's market manipulation.
And they're basically telling us that the US government will have all this money that they can then deploy for presumably good investment like infrastructure, roads, internet, or whatever. But they also
that's the window dressing. Most of it goes to their elite favorites.
So yeah, they have all these pork projects, and You know, even if you look at the stimulus bill just a few months ago, it was loaded with all the kinds of things that that they normally would. It was an omnibus bill, and even people online were like, "Oh, this bill funds other countries, and it helps fund the Space Museum or whatever." But the idea was that it was an omnibus bill, and politics tend to combine all these things into one thing. So it's all or nothing. You either sign the thing or you don't sign it. So it's a dysfunctional system where all of this gets either funded or not, and then people are almost like held hostage for that.